everyone. Tame's not here, so Ryan will do the karakia for today, please.
Thanks again, Paula. I'll just start. Whakatauki. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hei ake ana te atakura, hei tio, hei huka, hei hauhu, te hei Māori ora.
Thank you. Thank you. Morena tātou. And thank you for doing that. I think there will come a time when we can all confidently embrace that role as well from time to time as the need requires. So this is a good day because, you know, it's the end of a big process for us and a lot of work, a lot of hard work's gone into it. So thank you for that. So are there any apologies? I don't think so. We have Angela in space at home. And no apologies for early departure. Now this, I won't jinx it, this may be expediently done, this meeting. Which was
jinxed it.
No, that was in code. Yeah, because we've all had a chance to look at this. There was a little bit of detail forwarded last night into Diligent David, was that Sean? Some extra, I saw it come in on an email. Wasn't material, so, but if you have any questions about that, we'll cover it off as we go. Now, move that, there are no apologies. Move that the confirmation, are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. We'll move that the confirmation of the agenda is as stands. Oh, sorry, who said that? Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, okay. Myself, Ewan, done. Thank you, everyone. I think we have public forum, or do we not? Wasn't provided for? No platform for that? Okay, because I did see someone here. All right, so we'll go to the chair's, the attachment 1, the confirmation of the long-term plan deliberations open minutes.
I'll move.
Done. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Chair's report. And thank you. Cool. Second, thirded. It says what it says. You can take it as read. I am very proud of the way that we delivered this. Really proud of the engagement, and I want to say thank you to staff for the work that you did, setting this up for success and helping our community have greater consultation than they've had before. And I know each of my councillors was out and about doing their very best work to promote the LTP to people to have a say. So I'm really proud of that. And it doesn't go unnoticed in the community what a productive and cohesive council we have, notwithstanding the occasional difference of political opinion, which is reasonable. So thank you, everyone. Any comments, questions? No? Okay. Thank you. We've moved it. I don't know, someone moved it. Ewan and Dave moved it. It's all in favour. Development contributions policy. So it's been moved and seconded, Jeff and Dave. Mm-hmm. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So do you want to?
We have, I think, Greg Carstens on Zoom also, and so I understand the report is to be taken as read and obviously here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No, there are no questions.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, well, it's very much the same as it was where we landed.
We've already pre-purchased 1,000 words from Lachlan.
That's right. Yes, I'm on a fixed fee. No, the only relevant legal observation to make is the one that probably is on everyone's minds, which is the status of the judicial review and how that impacts on this decision making. And in the past, I've given advice on this, and it hasn't changed. And the advice is that you really need to proceed with your policy making on a business as usual approach. And that's exactly what you're doing here. There are some elements of this current policy or this proposed policy which have of course been carried forward from your old policy, and that old policy is the subject of the judicial review. So there might be, when we get a decision on the judicial review, some outcomes which indicate that there needs to be some changes made, and they can be made at any time after you adopt this policy. So in terms of today's approach, if you're happy with the policy, then you should adopt it, and then if there are any changes that are driven out of the judicial review, they can be made in the fullness of time.
Thank you. And I think we did have the debate on the points of difference throughout the whole deliberations. And I just would note that I welcome the inquiry into it. It's fine. That's a process, and actually if after a robust process there are changes to be made, we know they will also be based on robust evidence, and that can only be helpful. All right, it's been, Ryan. It has been moved, it has been seconded. Yeah, and thirded and fourthed. All in favour, please say aye. Angela's in favour. Cool, thank you. Thank you, Lachlan and team, and thank you to the staff. We know that this is one of the most complex and also one of the most fraught elements of the long-term plan. You know, we're not out of the woods yet in terms of, yeah, I'll get to you, right? Not out of the woods yet, but.
And for clarity, Richard, seeing Lachlan only used 200 words, do we still have 800 remaining? Thank you. So we'll bank those for another day.
I was going to say, knowing this council, there'll be a chance to use those later, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to growth funding, item 8, please. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Did you catch that, Mark and Dave? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What would you like to say to us about this?
I'm happy to take any questions. No, not going to say anything.
Oh, that's uncommon. All right, any questions? Any questions? We'll go into debate. Any debate on this? Anything, any comments people want to? No? All in favour? Please raise your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you again to the team for that. Okay, we go to item 9, the adoption of the long-term plan. And there are a number of parts in here. I'll move. Deputy Mayor seconds. Any particular issues you want to highlight here, Sean? I think if there's any changes, just make sure that we have wrapped those up. That would be good.
No, there's nothing I particularly wanted to add in respect of the document itself. I do just want to take the opportunity on behalf of the staff and management team to thank elected members, though. Often sort of the thanks goes the other way, but I think this has been a really collaborative process, and it has been sort of a really challenging but enjoyable one. So I just want to say on behalf of the staff and the management team to thank you for your contribution to that. That has been really appreciated. And also just want to acknowledge a couple of load of people across the organisation have contributed to the long-term plan, obviously. I just want to single out or double out kind of a couple of people that aren't physically here, but Julie Clausen, who has led the plan all the way through. So she has been having an operation on her thumb and is at home. And Tracy Mussey, who's led the finance team side of things, who is on Zoom as well. So I just want to kind of acknowledge those two in particular, but also kind of a general kind of thanks to all the staff that have contributed as well. That was me.
Thank you very much. We've moved, we seconded it. We're in debate as a part of the... Oh, you had a question. Sorry. Yeah.
Notice that on page 381, which seems to be a placeholder for an audit opinion, there is no audit opinion there. Can you perhaps give us the reason why we haven't got the audit opinion to approve as part of the document?
We do now have the audit opinion. So the audit opinion was included in second, the updated document that was added to Diligent yesterday. So that the audit opinion has now been added to that.
Well, I couldn't. I synced mine this morning, and I couldn't. It hasn't come up on mine.
One moment, please.
I think we do need to find that and give...
No qualifications, that's why it's blank, isn't it?
Modification.
I'm here to answer your questions. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the auditors here.
Oh, here we are. Good timing.
In that respect, while you look for it,
Yep.
we might invite a spokesperson from the auditor's office just to talk to any high-level. We got it circulated yesterday, and not everybody has been able to open it. So Rob legitimately raised the question. He wanted to have oversight of the audit opinion before we adopt, which is fair. So would you like to come forward and just, if there's any material matter you want to comment on? I'm sure there isn't. And Sean, you're finding it?
I will shortly, yes.
Thank you.
Find the audit opinion in the documents.
Morning, Your Worship, councillors. Do you want me to quickly talk high level on?
Well, some people have absolutely no oversight at the moment, so a high level comment would be really good,
Cool.
where it's landed and so on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so the opinion overall is very similar to the one that we issued on the consultation document. So it's an unmodified audit opinion, but a modified audit report. So there's 3 emphasis of matters included. It's the uncertainty around the 3 waters, which is the first one, and that is a standard all across the sector. The second one is the uncertainty around the cost savings. And again, it's just highlighting that in the long-term plan, there's a lot of 106 million included as savings, and we're saying it's a reasonable assumption. The risk is just it's based on, it's quite uncertain to do that, and we just referred to that disclosure. And then the third one is the reliability of the condition information. What we're saying, some of your above ground assets, just the quality of the information is not as good as what you would expect. But it's just, again, drawing your attention to that. We don't think that there's any problem with that. Yeah, it's the same as with the consultation document. That's from overall, but we're saying the long-term plan and underlying information is a good basis to report back to your community on what you're planning to do.
Thank you very much. Any follow-on
Yeah,
questions, Councillor Pascoe?
could I just question Clarence on the third item, which is our above-ground assets? Does your audit outcome suggest that our asset management plans are not as accurate as they could
not
be
gonna
in
make?
terms of the condition of those assets?
So,
Yep. Or is it that we have perhaps under-provided in our budgets to bring those assets up to the state or the condition that you would regard as acceptable?
no, so there's nothing with the condition of the assets as such or the provisioning for maintaining the assets. It's more around just updating the wording in the documentation around the condition of the assets. So, and we would just expect for a city council to have a bit more detail on the condition of the assets in the plans. It's not that when you start talking to people, there's a lot of information around. It's not only the age and condition or the age that determines the replacement. It's more around just having that in the documentation. So it's not about the funding or the maintenance of it.
And are you confident that that's something that we can improve on?
Definitely.
And you've got sort of suggestions as to what we need to do in order to take that matter of emphasis potentially away from future reports?
Definitely. And we've been working with management, and it's well known what they're planning to do. It's in the 10-year plan as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And I suppose, does this sit in the context of, like you were talking about, the 3 waters and the whole sector? I guess this infrastructure issue is also one that sits across the whole sector, given the Infrastructure Commission work at the moment and at a national level identifying infrastructure deficits and needs. So it would sit in that context?
It's definitely part of the 3 waters, and when you look at the whole sector reform, that's one of the reasons why, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Sorted, Rob?
Yes, I've had my questions answered.
Councillor Thompson? It's been answered? Okay.
And just, so page 958, 7 was the audit opinion for, and those, so the updated versions were added as appendices in the diligent for anyone still looking.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or any other matters to highlight, Sean? No?
Nope.
Any questions? I think it's been moved and seconded, hasn't it? So yes, we're all in favour. Oh no, hang on, debate, in case anybody wants to say anything on it. I will just add my vote of thanks to Sean, you and your team. You've highlighted some of the people who've played a key role. I know the organisation's been very stretched to deliver this ambitious long-term plan. And we've done a lot of work in a short period of time, so we want to thank you for that. And as I've said before, I'm particularly grateful for the improved connection that we've been able to demonstrate with the community, and we can build on that going forward for future LTPs. So please pass on our thanks from Council to all staff who've been involved. And I hope that if you are taking the opportunity to take some downtime in July, that you have a good break. Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. Oh, you're going to speak now. Okay.
Yeah, I have had my name up on the board for quite some. It would be remiss of the Chair of Finance not to speak in respect to this budget. Look, I'd also like to congratulate you, Mayor Paula, on leading the long-term plan. This is the major work job for this term, and also echo the comments that you've made in respect to Sean and his staff, and David and Tracy and the finance team on getting this work done. Look, I think there's a degree of honesty in this budget in the sense that we are aligning our income with expenditure, and the fact that this council continues to have very high spending is being echoed this time by another significant increase in rates, and with higher rates going forward. You know, from the 1st of July next year, residents will be paying 14.1% more in rates than what they're paying today. And some ratepayers later this year will probably experience an even higher rate increase as a result of their property revaluations, which occur in the next couple of months. In addition to this, a 9.9% increase in Waikato Regional Council rates also this year, and heaven knows what increases might happen in the following year if the numbers on the Tahuia train don't increase significantly. I think that we need to be cognizant of these rate increases, and we need to expect that there will be some financial hurt out there. And I think sort of going forward, we need to be careful how we manage this budget and don't just simply work on a cost-plus approach to where we're going. The red flag in this budget is, of course, our debt-to-revenue ratio. And this time we have removed that 20% buffer that we previously had, which was a little bit of insurance for us in the event of a black swan event that might occur. And that black swan event, of course, is occurring. And despite the fact that we think we've done pretty well with COVID, there are second, third, fourth waves coming, and we know that there will be delays in some of our supply chain, which will add additional costs on. And so I'm concerned about that. I'm also concerned about the impact of water. The Three Waters Review. I've prepared thousands of budgets over my professional life.
Hang on a minute, Rob, I won't waste your time, but sorry, it is a bit like a sound funnel up here, and I can't hear Rob when there are side conversations, please. It just does really make it hard to hear.
One has to wonder about the importance of debates if nobody's listening. But however, I will continue. The Three Waters is a real concern. Having prepared thousands of budgets and cash flows in my professional life, I'm quite concerned that we are approving a budget today that we know will be clearly wrong in 3 years' time. And, you know, we've had from staff significant changes that will impact on our balance sheet and revenue statement in the next 2 to 3 years. And yet we have, and fortunately our auditors have aligned us to that, we will have a balance sheet and a revenue statement that will look significantly different. So I think, just if I can summarise, and I know I'm over time, but we need going forward to manage this budget very, very carefully. We need to consider all expenditure and the effect that expenditure has on our poor, struggling ratepayers. And I think we need to be very careful how we separate essential work from what we seem to have a lot of in this budget and that are nice to haves. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bunting.
Thank you. I was waiting for the nice to have and you left it right to the last. So look, as Chair of Community, I just want to say thank you to this team as well, because I think it's been probably the most community-focused 10-year plan that we've had for quite some time. Right since the beginning of this term, we've all been talking about looking after what we've got, which has proven over the time, if you don't do it right, you end up paying more in the long run. So thank you for such incredible wellbeing focus in this 10-year plan. I do echo what Councillor Robb says about the rates, though. I mean, we have, just quietly put through 8 to 9% rates increase. Last term there was a hullabaloo about it. This term it just seems to be a little bit more noiseless, but we are able to say and separate it out and say, look, some of it's government regulation, etc. But I'm also mindful of something Councillor Robb said in a previous debate, and that is that just because it comes out of two different pockets doesn't mean to say it's not the same person paying it. So we can't just duck shove stuff to the government and expect our ratepayers who are being billed to pay for it. So having said that, though, I'm really appreciative of how progressive this budget is too. The fact that this time round we've got at last decent spending on cycleways. So thank you for coming to the party. We've got some great mode shift stuff. This sort of stuff is quite dear to me. And I'm really going to be interested in the next 10-year plan if me or any of us are around to what it actually looks like, because who knows what we'll be budgeting for and what the government will be doing themselves anyway. So it may be a completely different kettle of fish. This may be the last one as we know it, the kind of noises we're making. But big tribute to you, Mayor Paula. I think you conducted an incredibly calm and rational process. Of course, we all got passionate and we all got angry and we all got excited, and there were a lot of laughs. Yeah, it was a really, really good experience. So congratulations all. Happy to endorse this 10-year plan.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher.
I wasn't going to speak, but the Chair of Finances encouraged me to speak, and I thank him for that. The reality is I've been on this council, and in this particular round, we've had significant LTP debates. I think of all the 4 LTP debates that I've been through, this has been the most, I guess, collegial, and it hasn't been any easier. The reality is last term was not unanimous at all. I'm hoping today might be, but I respect if people want to dissent, I'll be voting for this LTP to confirm it. Last time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, under the previous administration we had an 8.9 base increase at the LTP, followed, 9.6 and then a 3.8. Now it's an 8.9 and a 4.9. All that does, whether it's unanimous or there were some who opposed it last time, now voting this time, all that underscores is the huge challenges facing local government and local infrastructure in this country. And I think Councillor Pascoe is totally correct to actually give a series of words of warning and a sober analysis. Having said that, with respect, he talks about the nice to haves. First of all, if you look at value, if you take the average rate, depending on people, and this is the problem, it's a blunt instrument, depending on the numbers living in a household, and you divide a household with the rates they pay by each person lives in the household and then divide it by 52 weeks a year, then what is that per week per person? So base rate for a figure of $20, $30 a week per person, and I'm not diminishing that, you get water, you get rubbish collection. Oh, when you're wandering around the lake and wandering and enjoying the Hamilton Gardens, and you're wandering along a street or driving along a street without potholes, and you're having nice street lights and you're having lovely infrastructure, that's part of that deal. So with respect, I think there's a value. However, the means by which we tax for local services, which the rate is, obviously is a fairly blunt instrument because it doesn't necessarily take account of each individual's ability to pay, and that's obviously the difference between rates, property tax and income tax. Notwithstanding that, I want to acknowledge this Mayor for the way in which you've actually had a very inclusive process. You've brought the team with you. Any Mayor, whoever that is, whether it's Julie Hardacre, Andrew King, Paula Southgate, it's a tough job. It's a tough job to lead a city, and I think collectively together, I think we've come with a particular LTP which is not without pain, and obviously we're about to witness, I hope, fundamental and significant changes, I apologise, to local government and how we do this stuff in future. But without further ado, I thank the Mayor, the team and our wonderful staff for a package which is not without pain, but when I just walk around and I hear the laughter of kids on the wonderful playgrounds and the decent, lovely streets, all of this, not perfect, with respect, it's not a nice to have, that's a fundamental, that's essential, that's what is making a good community. It's not going to be without challenge to continue to provide for that wonderful, good community.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Look, I think it's absolutely appropriate that our Chair of Finance, I like to refer to him as the Minister of Finance, highlights some of the fiscal concerns that we have. I've often found in my career identifying problems are relatively straightforward. What's really meaningful is putting forward the meaningful solutions and how we can address the issues we have to manage. And I can't help but think that this budget is potentially a reflection on multiple previous councils who have, for whatever reason, including potentially political survival, have chosen to have years of very, very small or zero rate increases and haven't chosen to future-proof critical infrastructure. Can I remind this council we're spending between 80 and 100 million a year just on renewals and maintenance? We're doing that because historically councils have chosen to trim those areas as a way of creating a lower rate base. Because we were hiding. The problem is we have too small a population, too small a rating base, and we have an appetite for quality, world-class infrastructure and growth. And so we're always going to have this significant friction. So my comment would be, actually, the rate increase today is high, but it's reflective of the fact that we've got to continuously invest in ageing infrastructure. Hamilton also has to manage this huge growth demand. And the third limb of considerable cost is our friendly Wellington-based politicians applying their regulatory compliance costs. So let's remind ourselves that 4.5% of our 9.5% rate increase is a direct result of government compliance. So within that context, I think this is a responsible budget. And I say to every ratepayer in this country, if your council is giving you a zero rate increase or 1 or 2%, I'd be really worried, because the tsunami is coming, because they're creating this false economy. As to my good friend pointing out issues of Te Huia, I think, to be honest, that's a little unfair to pick one project in the context of this broader budget. But I hope that in the future, when it becomes a success, that it will, that it's acknowledged as a great economic enabler. My final comment is a thanks to the Mayor for her leadership and to every one of my colleagues, because it's not been easy. But what we've landed on is a meaningful, I think, responsible budget, and it will lay a solid foundation for this city going forward, and we should be pleased with that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Ewan talked about a tsunami. I think that this budget does a lot more to look after what we've got, to look after the safety and well-being of the community and to look after our environment. But it does feel in some ways like a bit of the tip of the iceberg. There's still so much more that we need to do, particularly to deliver for growth in housing. And that's something that I think that's that one thing that sits a bit uneasy with me today, is that we know that we've got a lot more intensification coming through our district plan changes, we've got more growth coming, and we really don't have the funding that we need to actually enable that in the time that we need to do that. But we're not alone in that either. The Infrastructure Commission has estimated a $75 billion infrastructure deficit in this country, although the water reforms and those working on that have said 135-something billion just for water. So we are looking at a looming deficit and a tsunami coming, even with the additional rates increase and the additional investment that we're putting in to the city through this long-term plan. And increasingly also, we've got a lot of uncertainty around things like climate change and other national policy statements. For a long time, we haven't actually been paying the full cost of our growth. The environment and our waterways, our climate, everything has been subsidising that growth, but it's running out of ability to absorb that now. And now the chickens are coming home to roost in that respect also. And so now we're actually having to start to pay the full cost as well as remediate the impact of what we've done in the past. So I think there are lots of things to be really excited about in this long-term plan, but I guess I also feel a little sober about the looming challenges that we have as a city and a country as well. But I look forward to continuing to work on those. So in many ways, the work has just begun. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I go to my right reply, or does anyone else want to? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate those comments from all of who have spoken, and councillors prior who spoke when we adopted the plan, because you're spot on. Now, we've all been mindful of rates and the pressures off the back of COVID especially, and we've all remembered that both businesses and residents are ratepayers, and sometimes people are hit more than once. The forward challenges on infrastructure, as a number of you have said, infrastructure provision and the changes coming our way are huge, absolutely huge. I've been in politics for 20 years and I've never seen the pressure change the way it is now. We all endeavoured during our, as you know, during our many, many hours of working these issues through to find balance between affordability and providing for a future-proof Hamilton. I myself wanted a lesser spend here and there on various items. Others wanted a lesser spend on other items, and we had that debate. We had a really rich debate about it. It landed where it landed. The community voice was actually quite loud, and we landed where we felt the community wanted us to land on the 5 priorities that we went out with. We can't rely on ratepayers going forward endlessly, otherwise they've got a very expensive path ahead. But I believe we need to keep our conversations with central government strong throughout this time of change and be looking for ways to deliver the most cost-effective and efficient local government going forward. And as Councillor Bunting says, that might not look like the councils that we have around the country now. I'm not proposing amalgamation, but I'm saying that change is coming and we should be informing that change. We should be informing that change for the benefit of Hamiltonians. But what a fantastic team I have here when you listen to the robustness of the debate and and we all stand our own political ground in this council. We stand where we want on issue by issue basis, but at the end of the day, we take our responsibilities to the ratepayers seriously, and we have done that here. So hopefully this will be a unanimously accepted long-term plan, despite, you know, various areas of nuance and difference within the whole process. So on that, I'm pleased to say, let's go to the vote, and we'll do it on the board this time, please.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, well, rates remission, sorry. Rates resolution. Thank you. I forgot to bring my better glasses today. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Seconded. Anything you need to highlight with this, or? Thank you to the auditors. We appreciate your work with us. Thank you. No, you're not going to say anything. Okay, so are there any questions on this? Councillor Bunting.
Oh, no, just put that up there to one name up.
I thought you were going to be the ripple effect of this one. Okay, thank you. One question, yep.
In terms of how we will report rates going forward on our rate bills, will we be separating out the targeted rate from the general rate? And will that appear on each of the rate accounts?
Yes, correct. Yes, so it's a separate line on the rates levies, where it shows the rates levies. We also will have a brief description on the rates invoice as to what the rate relates to.
So it'll essentially look like previously the targeted rate for the gardens.
Hamilton Gardens,
it'll
yes.
show as a line item.
Correct, yes.
And going forward, going forward into future years, that will remain the same. It will get its own adjustment each time by the
Yep, that's correct.
by the 4.9%. 4.9%. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Has it been moved and seconded? I don't think it has. I'll move. Oh, you did? Okay, I'll second then. I'll go to the vote, please. Oh, no, it was going on the board, but that's okay. Show of hands, all in favour. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. Oh, my goodness, somebody's calling me right in the middle of council meeting. Sorry. Comes up on my screen. It's gone. Now I've lost my agenda. Bear with. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Recommendations from open committee. Is there only one? Just looking. Yep. Mark's moving, seconded by, I think I heard, who seconded it? Dave, thank you. Any questions, concerns on that? You're moving both recommendations, Councillor Bunting? Thank you. All in favour? Angela, thank you. Okay, good. Excellent. We're going into remits, are we? Are we going into remits, yeah? Who's talking to this? Who's going through the remits with us? Anybody can answer that question? Is James going to do it? Or
I thought James was doing it, but
can we get James?
He's on
Zoom.
I can just run through, it's just running through the individual. We've got staff coming in just to speak to any or respond to any questions in relation to any of the specific.
Just a point of note for this item, councillors. Just a point of note for this item. I've been writing to National Council with a limited of success at the moment, but I'm going to be a bit tenacious on this, requesting that at the local government conference that National Council or the LGNZ always report back to the entire membership the progress of previous remits, because because you'll know that we successfully got a unanimous remit on 4-year terms, for example, and I've heard nothing about how that's going. So I'm going to ask James to persist, and I'll be pushing on local government through the President of Local Government that in some format or other they report back on the remits of previous years as to progress. I think we, the members, put those remits up, and therefore we, the members, have right to understand what happened to them. Their view was that that goes through National Council, and National Council communicate. I think an AGM is for all members, and so I'm going to persist with that, so you know. Councillor Gallagher.
I totally think that's pretty obvious, you know, obvious, but good, excellent that you're doing that. I'm always a little bit, to date, I've always been, what's the time now? Oh, I've got 5 minutes. Just a certain wager I've got with an elected member. But seriously, you got to say, what's the process of remits? What is their purpose? So if you can't even report back, what on earth is their purpose? But any remits that come from now on, I understand we're in the middle of huge challenge and huge change, and obviously good luck in encouraging local government New Zealand to really focus on the ball and accept that challenge, and to ensure that all our efforts and energy are related to the significant reform process that I think we're about to see, as we know, which will be as significant as in recent history. And we just got to be careful that we don't spend, keep the eye on the ball. But good on you for saying, how about you report back to members? You know, we pay a sub, right? You pay a sub. How about we at least get to know that stuff? So good on you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll let you know how I go on that. But as some of us will be down there, right? Maxine and who else? I can't remember who's coming. Yeah. So good. So we'll go through one at a time because yeah.
And given your involvement at the national level, do we ever know what happens? I mean, I've been at annual meetings where remits have been put up, and you know, cynically you walk away and think, well, that's the last we'll ever hear of it. But is that effectively what happens?
Well, yeah, sometimes it gets reported back through the zones in some way. Yep. But not in a coherent and logical step-through way. So there are things that then just fall through, like, you know, like sands through a sieve. You're not quite sure where they landed. So National Council apparently talk about that, but National Council, I've never been on National Council. Yeah, I don't know.
Have we had any success with any of the remits that, in your time?
Yeah, we have. When I was on regional council, I can recall some remits around tyre tracking and tyre sport and other things like that.
Yep. Waste
management levies and so on that have had traction. But there's an awful lot that, and even we go on about our business in between, right? We do the remits, we come back, we do our own local business, and we lose track of what. I mean, there was something like 24 remits last year. It was an incredible amount, and I can't tell you about any of them, and that's my concern. So
yeah, okay. Good.
But let's go through these, and I can't promise that I know very much about all of these too, because it's an interesting process. But the first one is tree protection. Tree protection. Can anybody talk to me about tree protection? And the difficulty also is when you go there, you vote for or against. You can't actually abstain. And you can't abstain because it's an electronic scoreboard, so the whole room sits there waiting, well, Hamilton City, and they know that you haven't voted and you've got to vote. So this puts us also in a really interesting position, whether even abstaining on things that you are not less informed about would be an option, I think. Might raise that if you're interested in that discussion. So trees, can someone talk to us about trees, tree protection?
A more of like a blanket protection for certain trees, like native trees and things. Previously it was taken out of the RMA, and since then Auckland, I know in Auckland at least, when they've been measuring their canopy, they've had like 10% canopy loss over just like a few years or something. So it's significant impact where basically unless it's on a register or an SNA, then there's no protection for trees. So they're seeing significant large native trees just being felled with no consequences, and that's why they've put that in. I think that it is something that needs to be addressed, really.
It's proposed by Auckland, and they're in the middle of some really significant challenges. And as per the conversation we had in Councillor Ryan's committee just yesterday, I think this is potentially significant and relevant.
All right, so thank you, that was helpful. I did see the letter come through when they asked for support, but that's sort, Rob?
Yeah, So, and this did come up at the discussion yesterday with Alice, and I wonder whether we shouldn't be seeking some advice from Alice in that heritage sort of area. But, it doesn't state there about trees on private property. And I think, and Alice did allude yesterday to that being, one of the significant challenges, that while we've got control over public land, whether something like this needs to be extended to private land, or whether private land needs to be exempt. And I know for many years Auckland struggled with having trees on private land protected. And I think in the end they gave up because it was too expensive and difficult. So I just wonder whether the devil, of course, will always be in the detail, but I just wonder whether we need more information on this in terms of who it might affect and the property rights and all of those sorts of things.
And we haven't got more time is the
Yeah.
interesting thing here. I think we just have to lift it up now to that principal level, Rob, and say, do we largely support this or not? And they will talk to it at the
conference.
At the conference. So in that respect, you can also place some trust in the members that will be present to listen to the debate and maybe adapt on the day. But I've got to know how you want me to vote largely. Councillor Hamilton.
I wonder, procedurally, with your leave, unless any elected member is wanting to vote by exception, whether we could just vote for them as a suite?
I'll second that procedural motion.
Is that a procedural motion to do this? It's just a motion. Look, I'm happy to. It does mean that you're just kind of doing a straw poll across the whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, assuming everyone's read it and is ready to vote.
Okay. The trouble is that some people might want to opt out one by one. And
But that's what I'm saying, to give them the opportunity now. Or
Yeah.
Now or never.
So is there anything that council wouldn't support just by exception?
Well, I just want to have, and tell me if it's covered, I just want to have that we support the following remits with a subject to the mayor as our delegate exercising discretion in terms of any new evidence or new arguments, something, there's a little bit of room, obviously.
Yeah, so there you are, the presiding delegate.
That's fine, that's fine.
Cool. So those of us who are here will look and have a conversation about it. So, okay, anything...
And do we actually want to say that we'd like to hear what happened to them?
Yeah.
No.
James
That's
will
a separate thing.
James will. He'll give us an update. James would give us an update, I'm sure.
Oh, he'll give you an update as it goes. But last time we were texting you, or as it went, I think, from the conference, as I recall, so you knew very
No,
quickly.
I'm just saying in a year's time, someone reminds you what happened to these.
No, we'll
That's all.
try. So is there anything people don't feel inclined to vote favourably for?
I wouldn't vote to support the tree protection one because it's so wide-reaching. It's about
Yeah.
it's
Well, I'm
about
doing
all
it by
the protect
exception.
trees in their district, which
So I'm taking
has
trees
property
out by
rights issues.
exception. Anything else you need to be out by exception because you have doubts about. Otherwise, we're going to test it with the democratic majority here. So let's do trees separately. All those who are for the remit on trees, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yep.
The motion is carried, noting Councillor Pascoe as dissenting.
Right, and we've indicated now in discussion that the remaining 6 remits get carried through with our support. All in favour, please raise your hand.
The motion
Thank
is
you.
carried unanimously.
Done. Excellent. What's next? when public excluded. So that's it, team. We're going to have a coffee break and then we're going to come, bring the update on the Chief Executive Review further forward. So, coffee break?
Cool, so that means staff are out then?
Huh?
Staff are free to go back to their offices?
Yes.
Yes, cool.
Thank you, everyone.
You're released.